Impressive kid, but I'm telling you, at this rate, that move is getting outlawed.
This is Sportscentre.
Hey, I'm Marissa Roberto, and the Bill Belichick era is over in New England. Yesterday we had the news of Pete Carroll's exit from Seattle. Then Nick Saban called it a career. Then this morning ESPN broke the news of Bill's split from the Pats. It's been an open secret that Belichick might be on his way out, especially amidst a 4-13 season. Belichick and Robert Kraft met throughout this week, and the split was amicable, with ESPN noting both sides took the high road. In 24 seasons with the Pats, Belichick won 266 games, plus 30 more in the playoffs, and he also holds the record with 6 Super Bowls. If Belichick has coached his last game in the NFL, he'll finish as the third winningest coach in league history, trailing just Don Shula and George Halas. But that's a big if. Here's what Adam Schefter had to say regarding next steps.
The focus in Foxborough will be on Gerard Mayo, the Patriots linebackers coach, whom the organization holds in high regard, and I believe he will be if not the favorite candidate to become the next head coach of the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick will be a coaching free agent. There are currently 7 other teams aside from New England with coaching vacancies, and I would think that any team with a vacancy would have some level of interest in wanting to talk to the greatest coach of all time. The team that would make some sense, I think, in the eyes of many across the league would be the Atlanta Falcons. If we remember in the past, Arthur Blank once pursued and didn't get Bill Parcells. Bill Belichick learned at the feet of Bill Parcells the Falcons could use a head coach. There's nobody more accomplished than Bill Belichick, and that would certainly seem to make some sense if that's an avenue that the Falcons decide to pursue.
Imagine that, a team that choked away a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl to Belichick, and now he might be headed there. This afternoon, Bill addressed the media.
I'll always be a Patriot. I look forward to coming back here, but at this time, we're gonna move on, and I look forward and excited for the future. But always very, very appreciative of the opportunity here, the support here, and what you've done for me. Thank you.
Shifting to puck, and it does not get much better than this for Canadian hockey fans. All 7 teams are in action tonight. And that's pretty big news, especially if you're a fan of the teams out west. The Jets and Canucks that atop their divisions and are currently the top 2 seeds in the conference. And then you've got the Oilers, who are on their second 8-game winning streak in the last 7 weeks. Joined now by our guy Craig Button to talk some puck. Uncle Button, great to see ya.
Hello, Marissa. Great to see you. Happy 2024 to you, and hope the holidays were wonderful.
Okay, Craig, honestly, I don't know who you're going to say for this answer because you could go in many different directions. And it's a 2-parter. So who is the best team in Canada, and which Canadian team has the best shot of lifting the cup in June?
Well, isn't that interesting? We usually get to a point where we're talking about one team and maybe 2, but there's 4 teams in Canada right now that are playing so exceptionally well. Moving from west to east, the Vancouver Canucks, the Edmonton Oilers have found their footing, Winnipeg Jets on top of the league, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So you're looking at 4 teams that are so good and playing so well. Does that mean that they're positioned best to win the Stanley Cup? Not necessarily so. So when you look at these 4 teams, you got to look at the path. And the path in the West is really hard. The 3 teams in Canada, Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Vancouver, you're also competing against Colorado, LA, Vegas, and the Dallas Stars. So where does that lead me to? It leads me to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The East is simply not as strong as we've seen it in recent years. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, we know how good they are in the regular season. Brad Treliving has come in as the manager to be the person that can change the narrative this coming playoff time. That's why he's there. And that's his mandate, to change that outcome. So is there work to be done for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Yes. Does he need improvements on the blue line? Absolutely. But if you look at the competition in the East, I believe that the Toronto Maple Leafs have an opportunity, if they improve their team, to be able to compete for the Stanley Cup and be best positioned. So what does that mean? I think Brad Treliving has to be all in at the trade deadline to make this iteration of the Toronto Maple Leafs the best they can be. And then they may be able to talk about being a serious Stanley Cup contender.
Craig, the last couple times you've been on, you've teed off on some things that have been ruffling your feathers in the hockey world. What's bugging you this week?
Yeah, I know there's lots of talk in hockey about what could be bothersome, what's bugging me. I talked about the offside video review and whatnot. But I'm going outside the sport. I love skiing, Marissa. Earlier in the year, not enough snow. Temperatures were really good. Now there's lots of snow in the mountains. It's minus 40 or below. That's the wind chill. You think I'm skiing in that type of weather? After the World Junior in Gothenburg, it was wonderful being there. I was looking forward to some skiing. This guy ain't going to be skiing in minus 40-degree weather. So that's kind of bugging me, but I know I'll get my opportunity to speed down the slopes.
Craig just needs a daily segment of What's Bugging Button. Hello, we're all waiting. Craig Button, thanks for joining us. Viewers in the Jets region can catch tonight's game against the Blackhawks on TSN. Coverage begins at 6:30 Central. Sticking with Canadian puck, the Buds will try to make it 5 wins in a row tonight as they head to New York for a date with the Islanders. The last time these two teams met, it could not have been any more entertaining. The Leafs dropped a game in OT, but John Tavares netted his 1,000th point in the building where he's public enemy number 1, with his dad in attendance. And of course, he was booed mercilessly. The Leafs have their $11.5 million man all locked up, and yesterday recalled Ilya Samsonov from the AHL, where he had been since clearing waivers on January 2nd. He'll back up Martin Jones tonight, who's a perfect 4-0 in 2024, with only 3 goals allowed through those 4 games. Those in the Leafs region can watch the game tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 6:30 Eastern. In case you have not been paying attention, the PWHL has been a hit. And who better to discuss it with than one of the league's biggest stars? Now joined by 2-time champion, fellow Canadian, and fresh off her PWHL debut with Boston, it's Jamie Lee Rattray. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. How's it going?
Honestly, better now that you're here. You're an Ontario girlie now living in Beantown, so how is Boston treating you so far?
It's been awesome. It's quite the city. I think it's kind of giving me the similar vibes to Toronto, where I've been the last 10 years or so. So it's got some really cool little neighborhoods and little nooks and crannies that Toronto has, and it's a really cool city. You know, you drive in and you kind of get that cool vibes of, you know, the city, and it's such a sports crazed city, you know, similar to back in Toronto. So I've really enjoyed it. It's been awesome, and it's been kind of fun because I think a lot of our team is, you know, learning the ropes together in Boston. We don't have a ton of girls that are local, so it's been a lot of fun getting to know the city, and now being a part of the pro sports, you know, family here in Boston is kind of crazy to say, but it's kind of very, very cool at the same time.
Okay, it's fine as long as you don't start cheering for the Bruins. We're square. You faced a very tough Minnesota team in your debut, and you got an assist. What's your biggest takeaway from that game?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's a first for all of us. I think both teams were kind of just trying to figure it out. I mean, to be honest, you know, it was an emotional start. I think, you know, doing the intros and the national anthem, I think as a player, I think a lot of the girls, speaking to, you know, some of the girls in other teams, they also had the same vibes of just trying to get their bearings a bit and, you know, kind of realize, you know, trying to take in the moment because it was a big moment, but also then trying to, you know, focus in and now it's time to go to work. And I thought it was a good game. I think, you know, obviously both teams just trying to figure it out first games, you know, with the rhythm of the game. But then I honestly think we played such a good second half of that game. We can take a lot out of it. Obviously we would want to win the first game and every game, but that's a good team over there. And, you know, hats off to their goalie as well. She had a hell of a game. And, but I think too, like, you know, first game we find the rhythm and, you know, we can take a lot out of it. But it was definitely a cool experience, and the fans were into it. It was loud. It was a lot of fun. So all in all, I think it was a great night.
I'm a big fan of women's sports in general, so one of my favorite moments has been looking around and seeing all the fans and having one of those I told you so moments. So did you have that, or are you less spiteful than me? Was it more positive vibes for you?
I think the cool thing for me is always in warm up, like seeing the signs and the young girls by the glass. I think that's kind of my big moment, and kind of took it all in. And then obviously having someone like Bergeron drop the puck was really cool. And, you know, we've got a chance to kind of cross paths with him a little bit over the last couple of weeks. And he is just the ultimate legend and pro and down to earth human being that represents Boston to the core. So I think that was really cool. And the whole night was really cool. And even I remember, you know, vividly, and during a shift, the "Let's Go Boston" chant started going on in the crowd, and that was really cool as well. So it is cool. I mean, I think everyone is, you know, women's sports is here to stay, and I think it's, you know, people got to start getting used to it.
I love that, Jamie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's all for today. We'll see you right back here tomorrow at 3 Eastern, no Pacific. Have a good one.